You are not too late, but this must be the final delay. This must be the speech that ends hesitation forever. Because I am not here to motivate you. I am here to show you how to rebuild yourself from the inside out. You will not leave this the same because you will no longer allow the old version of yourself to return. This is the moment you reclaim time, declare identity, and act with the power of decision. What follows is not inspiration, it is transformation. Listen to every word. You will never be the same after this. You are not too late, but you must kill the lie that says you are. There is a silent enemy that has ruled the minds of men longer than fear, longer than doubt, longer than poverty. It is the belief that one's time has passed. The lie that says you missed your moment, that you should have acted sooner, that you are now too far gone, too behind, too late to become what you once imagined. But that is not truth. That is a parasite. That is a whisper from the part of you that wants to avoid responsibility. A seed planted by the world and watered by your hesitation. And the longer you believe it, the more you speak it, the more you rehearse the idea that your chance is gone, the deeper it takes root in your subconscious until your very identity becomes a man who almost did. That must end now. Time is not your enemy. Inaction is. Delay is. The refusal to begin now is what separates the man who becomes from the man who regrets. You are not out of time. You are out of motion. And the moment you begin again, deliberately, decisively, you prove that your future is not dead. It was only dormant, waiting on your voice. Do you know what I have found after interviewing the most powerful men of my generation? It is not youth that made them successful. It was not convenience. It was not perfect beginnings. It was clarity of thought and persistence of action. Most began after failure. Most were doubted. Many were late by the world's standards, but on time by spiritual law. Abraham Lincoln failed in business, lost elections, battled deep sorrow. Yet he became one of history's greatest men, not because of early success, but because he never surrendered the identity of a builder. He rose again and again, and when the hour of responsibility called for him, he answered, not as a man who had always won, but as a man who had always continued. Thomas Edison failed more times than most men attempt. He was considered foolish, unrealistic. His inventions often came after years of failure, but he never asked whether it was too late. He asked only whether he had decided. And when decision was made, he did not stop. And that is why the world remembers him, not for early starts, but for relentless commitment. You are not too old, you are not too late. The only time that is lost is the time spent believing you cannot start now. Let me remind you of what I wrote. The world has the habit of making room for the man whose words and actions show that he knows where he is going. The world bends not for those who had early opportunity, but for those who possess present direction. The man who walks in purpose commands the attention of the universe, not because of where he's been, but because of where he has decided to go. The world respects one thing above all, a man who moves with certainty. But certainty is not born in comfort. It is born in decision. And the man who believes he is late will never decide. He will hesitate. He will study. He will talk about what he might do, but never become the man who does. I tell you now, burn the calendar. Burn the idea that you needed to have started earlier. Begin now. Begin with fire. Begin with faith that your current moment is not behind schedule. It is right on time. What matters is not where you started. What matters is that today you start with clarity, that you stop counting years and begin commanding hours, that you stop rehearsing what should have been and begin installing what will be. You are not disqualified by delay. You are only disqualified by disobedience to the vision inside you. The vision still lives. The voice still calls. The man you were meant to become is not dead. He is waiting for one thing, your decision. You must now rise, not with guilt, but with command. Not with apology, but with authority. Not as one seeking permission, but as one issuing new instruction to your mind. This is the moment, not tomorrow, not when things feel easier. Now say this aloud. I am not too late. I am now ready. I move with purpose from this day forward. Again, I am not too late. I am now ready. I move with purpose from this day forward. Let these words bury the doubt. Let this voice override the whisper that said, maybe it's too late for me. You are not behind. You are building, and you will not be the same after this. There is a law in this world more exacting than time, more constant than age, more powerful than talent. It governs the rise of kings and the fall of cowards. It rewards one type of man and punishes another. It does not sleep, it does not pause, and it does not forget. I call it the law of repetition, for what you repeat, you become. The world teaches men to track their life by clocks and calendars. But the subconscious does not care what time it is. It does not measure years. It does not keep your schedule. It obeys one thing and one thing only, repetition backed by belief. And this, more than any other truth, determines whether a man drifts or rises. You may think your identity is shaped by your age, your background, your education, your opportunities. But I tell you with full certainty, it is shaped by what you've told yourself repeatedly. The old you, the one you want to escape, was not born. He was installed, not overnight, but over time, with words of fear, thoughts of doubt, delayed decisions, excuses, hesitations. Hesitation repeated becomes identity, and identity, once installed, will control every decision that follows. Understand this. Every thought you allow and every phrase you repeat with emotion becomes a seed, and what is planted consistently grows permanently. This is what I have called in my teachings the law of hypnotic rhythm. Once a thought or behavior becomes habit, it installs itself so deeply into the subconscious that you begin to act on it without effort. This is why it feels easier to remain the same than to change. It is not because you are incapable. It is because your habits of thought, your inner speech, your repeated phrases have formed a rhythm of delay, a rhythm of drifting, a rhythm of survival instead of command. And that rhythm, unless broken with violence and clarity, will rule you forever. But the same law that enslaved you is the law that will set you free, because just as the old you was built by the repetition of hesitation, the new you will be built by the repetition of belief. It must begin in thought, then word, then action. But it must not be spoken once. It must be repeated until the subconscious forgets how to disobey it. This is how men of power are made, not through chance, not through talent, but through mental discipline, through identity declaration repeated until it becomes a mental law. Let me give you the sentence that must now become your code. What I repeat, I install. What I install, I become. If you repeat fear, you install fear. If you repeat weakness, you install hesitation. But if you repeat belief, speak strength, declare identity, and move in faith without delay, you begin the process of becoming the man who no longer seeks power, but walks in it. This is not theory. It is not optional. It is not something to do when you feel like it. It is the method by which your mind is reprogrammed. And if you do not choose what you repeat, then your environment, your past, your fears, they will choose for you. You may ask, but what do I repeat? You repeat the man you have chosen to be, the one who speaks belief, the one who acts without waiting, the one who no longer flinches, the one who finishes what he begins. You write this identity, and you say it aloud every morning and every night. You say it when you doubt. You say it when the world is silent. You say it until the world can no longer ignore the man you have become. Let me be specific. Take out a page. Write, I am the man who speaks belief, acts in faith, and becomes what I decide. Now say it aloud. Do not whisper, do not question. Say it as if your life depends on it, because it does. Now again, I am the man who speaks belief, acts in faith, and becomes what I decide. You are not doing this to feel better. You are doing this to retrain your inner lawmaker. The subconscious does not ask if it's true. It only asks if you repeat it enough to matter. And once it believes it, you will act from that place without resistance. This is why most men never change, not because they're weak, but because they do not repeat the new identity long enough to replace the old one. They speak once, then wait, then drift. But the man who speaks daily, who acts accordingly, and who refuses contradiction, he becomes unrecognizable in 30 days. This is the battle, not against fear, but against your own old rhythm. You must now build a new one. And the tool is your voice, your thought, your movement, repeated, aligned, unshakable. You are not speaking who you hope to be, you are commanding who you now are. Say this one more time. I am the man who speaks belief, acts in faith, and becomes what I decide. This is how you break the old rhythm. This is how you rebuild identity. This is how you transform, not one day, but daily. You do not need to find yourself. You need to create yourself. And the material with which you create is not inherited, purchased, or found. It is spoken. Spoken with clarity, spoken with conviction, spoken with emotion and repetition until the words you declare no longer sound like belief, but feel like law. The world teaches men to describe who they are. I teach men to decide who they are. There is a vast difference between the two. The man who describes himself is limited by memory, by wounds, by circumstances he did not choose. But the man who declares himself, he breaks free from history and begins to write a new future with the only pen that ever mattered, his own voice. Your identity is not fixed. It is installed, not once, but daily. And if you do not install it with purpose, then life, fear, and failure will install one for you. One that sounds like, I can't. One that echoes, I'm too late. One that becomes a silent rhythm of delay. But that rhythm can be replaced through thought, voice, and repeated command. The subconscious responds not to facts, not to logic, not to evidence. It responds to what you speak with emotion and consistency. It does not ask, is this true? It asks, how often do you say this? And how much do you feel it when you do? And once it believes you, it begins to shift your actions, your tone, your posture, your outcomes. This is why you must now begin the most powerful habit of your life, the writing, speaking, and repeating of your identity script. Write at the top of a blank page, I am the type of man who... Then complete that sentence, not with what you've been, but with who you now command yourself to be. Do not write what feels realistic. Write what feels required. Write what your vision demands of you. Write what your future self would say. And then say it now. Examples. I am the type of man who moves without fear. I am the type of man who finishes what he begins. I am the type of man who acts before he feels ready. I am the type of man who speaks belief, commands his thoughts, and builds his future. These are not sentences, these are bricks, and every time you speak one aloud, you lay another foundation stone in the construction of your new self. You must now understand this. Identity is not a feeling. It is a decision reinforced through action and word. The world responds not to who you used to be, but to who you consistently declare and prove yourself to be. That declaration must now become your daily ritual. Every morning you must stand, speak your chief aim aloud, and then follow it with your identity script. You must say it with such conviction that the subconscious begins to submit, not in confusion, but in obedience. You must become the man who commands himself first before expecting the world to follow. Henry Ford was not the world's most educated man. He was not the most admired at first, but he had one strength few possessed. He declared what would be and refused to speak anything else. When he was told that the V8 engine was impossible, he did not entertain the idea. He said to build it anyway. And when they returned months later, defeated, he said again, "Continue." He had already decided, and when a man decides, his subconscious aligns and the world follows. Charles Schwab was not handed leadership. He spoke it into existence through initiative. He acted as a leader before anyone called him one. He thought as an executive before the title was granted. He was not describing himself. He was installing his identity through consistent behavior and decisive self-command. Andrew Carnegie did not wait to be noticed. He wrote his identity in movement. He rose not because of external belief, but because he trained himself to believe in who he had decided to be. And I tell you now, the only difference between you and those men is the clarity and consistency with which they repeated their identity aloud and proved it in silence. Now I give you your instruction. Write your identity script. Use "I am the type of man who," and finish with 3 to 5 declarations. Speak it aloud every morning and every night. Say it with fire. Say it until you feel it move your posture. Act in alignment. Let every behavior in your day confirm the identity you've declared. Refuse contradiction. Do not allow your lips to speak anything that opposes your script. Speak only what builds. You will find that within a few days, your inner resistance begins to fade. Your subconscious begins to trust you. Your behavior begins to align, not because you feel different, but because you have reprogrammed your internal law. This is not wishful thinking. This is spiritual authority exercised through the spoken word. You are not hoping to become, you are declaring what you now are. Say this aloud. I decide who I am. I act accordingly. Again, I decide who I am. I act accordingly. The man who repeats his new identity aloud and reinforces it in private becomes unstoppable, not because he never doubted, but because he chose the voice to obey. You do not need to be saved. You need to be reprogrammed, and you are the only one with a voice strong enough to do it. You are the man who builds with words. You are the man who proves it with action. Now begin. Write the identity. Speak it. And never again allow another sentence to live in your mouth that does not belong to the man you are becoming. There is a law written into the very fabric of your being, a law that separates those who dream from those who become. It is this: the subconscious believes only what you prove, not what you think about, not what you wish for, not what you feel inspired by, what you do. And if you desire to become something greater than you are, you must understand this law, or be ruled by it in ignorance. You may speak with power. You may write your identity with clarity. You may even repeat it daily. But if you do not act in harmony with what you speak, your subconscious will not believe you. Because the subconscious does not respond to poetry. It responds to proof. And every day, through your behavior, you are either confirming your new identity or returning to the old one. When a man speaks belief but does not move, the subconscious hears, "This is not real." When a man declares that he is powerful yet delays, it hears, "We are not serious." But when a man speaks and then acts, even with trembling hands, the subconscious receives a signal. He means it. And then something begins to shift. Each time you act on your belief, you install it deeper. The subconscious does not care whether the act is big or small. It cares only that the act is in alignment. One step, one conversation, one decision taken without apology. These are the bricks from which internal certainty is built. Let me give you now a simple 4-part rhythm. A daily pattern by which your identity is no longer theory, but law. 1. Speak belief aloud. Every morning, every evening, you must declare who you are becoming. Speak your chief aim. Speak your identity script. Let your ears hear your voice. Let your body feel your posture. Let your words have weight. This is not positive thinking. It is internal instruction. 2. Visualize success. Close your eyes. See yourself walking, speaking, deciding, acting as the man you have written. Visualize the results. Hear your voice. Feel the emotion. Do not just picture what you want. Experience it as if it were already done. This conditions the subconscious to expect success. 3. Take action. Do not wait for the perfect task. Take the next action in front of you that aligns with your identity. Make the call. Finish the task. Refuse the excuse. Action is the bridge between thought and belief. It turns noise into reality. 4. Reflect at day's end. Write one sentence. What did I do today that proves who I am becoming? Track your evidence. Show your subconscious that change is not an idea. It is underway. You must understand, every act is a message. Every behavior either confirms the identity you declared or betrays it. And what is not acted on disintegrates. This is why so many men begin with fire, but fade. They speak belief, they feel belief, but they do not act. And so their mind calls them a liar. This is not cruelty. This is precision. The subconscious mind is a builder. It builds only what is instructed through repetition and proven through motion. And it will not build a castle from imagination alone. Charles M. Schwab rose from steel worker to the president of U.S. Steel, not because he was the most talented, but because he understood the power of initiative aligned with identity. He did not wait for his title to act like a leader. He acted like a leader until the title caught up. And each day, through consistent, intentional behavior, he proved who he had decided to be. The result? The subconscious aligned, the people aligned, the results aligned. This is available to you, but only if you stop looking for certainty before acting. Action creates certainty. Movement builds belief, and the subconscious waits not for another affirmation, but for a day of proof. Let me say this with the full weight of experience. Every time you speak and do not act, you weaken the internal structure you are trying to build. You make your own voice less trustworthy. And if your mind cannot trust your command, it will not follow it. But every time you act, especially when it is difficult, especially when no one is watching, you build strength beneath the surface. And eventually, your new identity becomes your reflex. You no longer try to act like the man you wrote. You are him. Say this aloud now. Say it with full command. Say it as proof. I prove my belief through action. I rise, I build. Again, I prove my belief through action. I rise, I build. This is your new standard, your new daily law. Your transformation is no longer a question. It is no longer a possibility. It is a system, and you are now its master. From this day forward, you do not speak without acting. You do not affirm without aligning. You do not visualize without moving. And your subconscious, watching every step, will begin to obey, not because you begged, but because you proved. There is a graveyard where men bury their purpose. It is not marked with stone. It is not found on the map. It exists in the silence between intention and action. In that place, you will hear the same phrases echoing from every unfinished dream. I'll start soon. I'm not ready yet. I missed my window. These are not casual words. These are not harmless delays. These are the most destructive sentences a man can speak, because what you repeat becomes law in your subconscious. Speak excuses long enough, and your subconscious will install them as truth. You will begin to feel powerless, not because you are, but because you've trained your mind to believe that now is never the right time. And what is worse, you will begin to call this wisdom. You will cloak your hesitation in the language of strategy, timing, planning. But what you are truly doing is explaining your delay. And every time you explain delay, you delay identity. Let me say this with fire. Explanations destroy execution. The man who is always explaining why he has not begun is the man who has already lost the war before it started. Because the subconscious does not care how good your reasons are. It cares only what you say repeatedly and whether you follow it with motion. If you speak hesitation and walk in stillness, your subconscious will say, "Ah, he does not intend to move." And then, like all obedient servants, it will dim your energy, lower your focus, and kill your confidence. You must eliminate these phrases immediately, not next week, not after you prepare a little more. Now, let me give you the language of identity. You will no longer say, "I'll do it later." You will say, "I do it now." "I'm not ready." You will say, "I move before I feel ready." "I need more time." You will say, "I build time by beginning." "This isn't the perfect moment." You will say, "Now is the only moment I trust." These are not slogans. These are commands. These are the phrases that, when spoken daily, begin to reprogram the rhythm of your being. And if you speak them with fire and act with obedience, your subconscious will respond. Not with questions, but with capacity. This was the way of Thomas Edison. He was not a man waiting on perfect timing. He was not searching for comfort. He did not need the world to tell him when to begin. He began because the vision inside him was not negotiable. He failed thousands of times, yes, but he never paused long enough to excuse it. Because every moment spent explaining why you haven't begun is a moment that could have been used building. You must now adopt this discipline. Do not explain delay. Eliminate it. From this day forward, you will no longer allow your lips to give voice to the old rhythm. You will no longer buy into the illusion that tomorrow holds something your voice cannot claim today. You will no longer shrink from the edge of action because you feel uncertain. Certainty is not what brings action. Action is what builds certainty. And when you act while uncertain, your subconscious learns something powerful. This man does not need permission. He leads. That belief, installed over days and weeks of motion, becomes identity. And identity, once hardened, will begin to move before your thoughts even catch up. You are not waiting to become the man. You are becoming him now by refusing to delay. You do not need better plans. You need immediate movement. You do not need the world to say yes. You need to say now. Let this be your new law. Write it, speak it, obey it. From this day forward, I no longer explain delay. I begin, I persist, I build. Again. From this day forward, I no longer explain delay. I begin, I persist, I build. Let it ring in your chest until it erases every past excuse. Because the truth is this: you are not behind. You are simply not yet moving. And the moment you start, everything changes. The mind wakes, the voice sharpens, the steps align. And the world, seeing your decision, will begin to clear a path where once there was only fog. You are no longer the man who explains. You are the man who executes. Now begin. The greatest battle of your life is not fought with your hands. It is not a matter of strength, of stamina, of money or opportunity. It is a battle of attention, because what your mind holds, your life follows. And if you do not command your attention, the world will command it for you. The man who does not master the direction of his thought will never master the direction of his results. This is what I call controlled attention, the ability to choose what you think about, what you dwell upon, and what you allow into the sacred space of your mind. Controlled attention is not luxury. It is law. It is the daily discipline of directing your mental energy toward only what builds you. And I must tell you plainly, the man who drifts mentally will never rise physically. You cannot climb in life while falling in thought. If your mind is divided, distracted by opinions, poisoned by the past, pulled by the crowd, then your action will be scattered, your purpose diluted, and your destiny delayed. You must now adopt the mindset of a builder who protects the blueprint of his structure. He does not permit strangers to scribble on his plans. He does not allow wind and rain to wash them away. He keeps them dry, clear, visible, and he reads them every day. Your thoughts must now be guarded with that same precision. Ask yourself, what am I thinking right now? Whose voice am I allowing to shape my inner rhythm? Does this thought serve my chief aim or sabotage it? These questions must not be asked occasionally. They must become your constant filter. Because every thought either strengthens your direction or weakens it. There is no such thing as a neutral thought. Each one either moves you or mutates you. You are not a mind open to all. You are a mind with a mission. And the only thoughts that may enter from this day forward are thoughts that serve that mission. Thoughts that reinforce your identity, fuel your action, and remind you of who you have declared yourself to be. This is how great men separate themselves. They do not think less. They think with precision. They do not consume more. They filter more ruthlessly. They do not allow noise to enter the chamber of their focus. They walk through distraction untouched because their attention belongs to them, not to the world. Let me remind you of what I have written. The mind becomes what it is fed. And I ask you now, what have you been feeding it? Have you fed it excuses, repetition of doubt, and the endless noise of men who live without purpose? Or have you fed it with your chief aim, with the identity you declared, with the voice that commands rather than conforms? You must now decide to starve the noise and feed the vision. Replace every idle thought with intention, every lingering doubt with decision, every voice that pulls you backward with your own voice, written, spoken, repeated, obeyed. You already know your chief aim. You have written your identity script. Now they must become the filters of your focus. Whenever you catch your mind drifting, you return immediately to your script. You repeat your chief aim. You say aloud, "My attention is mine. I feed it only what builds me." And with practice, that voice becomes your shield, your guard, your alignment. This is not about willpower. This is about installation. You are training the subconscious to expect focus, to expect direction, to reject the useless and cling only to the useful. You are shaping your mind to become an instrument of your purpose, not a plaything for outside suggestion. Let me give you now the discipline you must follow. Every morning, speak your chief aim and identity script aloud. Throughout the day, catch every thought that does not align and replace it instantly. At night, review the dominant thoughts you allowed. Were they yours? Were they worthy? Eliminate the source of repetitive noise, be it person, platform, or habit. Refuse to think idly. Think intentionally, deliberately, and in harmony with your decision. This is how you gain strength invisible to the world. Your voice sharpens, your emotions settle, your pace accelerates. Not because you forced results, but because you mastered the source, your attention. Controlled attention is the root of personal power. Without it, you are a leaf in the wind. With it, you are a builder of destiny. Say this aloud. Let it become your vow. My attention is mine. I feed it only what builds me. Again, my attention is mine. I feed it only what builds me. Say it until your inner world believes you. Say it until the distractions can no longer enter. Say it until your mind belongs fully to your mission. You are not too late. You are not without power. You simply must now direct what was always yours, your attention. Success is not speed. It is not found in furious motion, nor in sudden victories. It does not arrive with a flash, and it does not answer to the impatient. Success is born of direction, and it is raised in the cradle of consistency. The man who becomes is not the man who acts once with force. It is the man who acts daily with alignment, who moves even when emotion is absent, and whose smallest steps build an identity that can no longer retreat. There is a law I must give you now, a law more powerful than inspiration, more reliable than talent, and more transformational than ambition. It is the law of momentum, and it states, one small step taken daily in the direction of your aim creates more power than 10 large steps taken occasionally in confusion. Momentum is not built through bursts. It is built through rhythm. When you move toward your aim every day, regardless of how you feel, you teach your subconscious something most men never learn. This man is serious. And once your inner mind believes that, it begins to pour its resources into your direction. You begin to move with less friction. Ideas rise faster. Courage appears sooner, and your identity becomes proofed, not through theory, but through undeniable motion. Let me show you this with two men. One waits. He studies, he journals, he plans. But he moves only when motivated. He tells himself, I need clarity. He does not step until he feels perfect. He does not act unless the wind is behind him. And every day he waits, his mind records, still undecided, still not ready. The other man acts, even when unclear, even when tired, even when discouraged. He completes one task, writes one sentence, speaks one affirmation, honors one commitment. His steps are small, yes, but they are stacked. They form a rhythm, a habit, a new image of self. And after 30 days, the difference is no longer subtle. The first man is still waiting to feel ready. The second has become unshakable. This is not about discipline alone. It is about momentum, the invisible energy that gathers around aligned repetition. The man who acts daily begins to experience something most men only dream of. He no longer needs motivation. He is no longer moved by mood. He acts because it is who he is now. Understand this clearly. Identity is not built by what you believe. Identity is built by what you prove. If you want to be the man who leads, you must lead daily. If you want to be the man who finishes, you must finish small tasks with excellence, daily. If you want to be the man who commands his thought, you must choose it and repeat it and return to it, daily. The subconscious does not need grand gestures. It needs consistency. It needs repetition in motion. A single sentence spoken with fire. A single task completed when no one watches. A single delay rejected in the name of your identity. These small proofs repeated create momentum. And momentum, once it awakens, begins to replace effort. You no longer try to be the man. You simply are him. Not because you say so,